Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. You can reach financial freedom and make work completely optional in 10 years or less, even if you're not starting from the best position. The purpose of my content is to teach people that that's true. It's what I did. But sometimes when I talk about how I did it or the advice that I give, people hate it. And it's on a spectrum. There is the people who absolutely hate the fact that I even said the thought that I have, and the people who just disagree with me on some things. So I'm going to go through a couple of the things that I talk about, and I'm going to start with the easy ones. So bear with me. By the time I get to the end, I'm going to trigger a couple of people. The first one, and to let you know how easy this is, but people just disagree with me on this, is I'm not frugal. And one of the things that a lot of people in the financial independence, retire early community do is talk about how you can save money by eliminating small expenses. That's not what I did. Instead of focusing on these small expenses, I house hacked so that I could do things like eat out all the time. I raised 3 picky kids, one that doesn't like red meat, one that doesn't like pasta, and 5 years between each. So there was actually 28 years of being a parent. And I have taken an oath to never cook again. So when I eat out, not only am I not having to shop, not having to transport the food, not having to store the food, cook the food, clean up after, throw away the things that I didn't eat because I got too many of them, I actually save money and time. The time is what I save more important than anything else to me. Now, I have a couple of things that I suggest on ways to save money when you eat out. The first is to find the local bars in your area because they make their money off of people who drink. Figure out the days of the week that they have their specials that is with food that you enjoy. And then for $10 or $15, you can eat there, take home leftovers, get 2 meals for $10 to $15, maybe 20 with a tip. The second thing is to find casinos in your area. They generally have good food and plan on making money from people who gamble. So when you go out, if you don't drink and you don't gamble, you can eat food at these places on a fairly low amount of money without having to do all of those things that involve going to a store, shopping, storing, prepping, cleaning, and disposing of. So when I talk about something like this, some people just disagree. They say, 1, you can save more money at home. Again, I'm not trying to be frugal. And 2, people say it's not healthy. Buy healthier meals when you're at a restaurant. Find the restaurants that have the food that is actually sourced from healthy material. There are restaurants that use non-GMO products. But I don't teach people how to eat right. It's not my goal. I don't teach people how to live longer. I teach people how to live more. The second thing that I want to talk about, I get hate from both ends of the spectrum. This is something where I think Dave Ramsey and Stephan are on opposing ends of the spectrum, and I don't agree with either one of them. This is the use of credit cards. Dave Ramsey, having such a negative experience with credit because he used 90-day debt and it blew up in his face and he had to file bankruptcy, has helped millions of people by being anti-debt, right? All debt is bad. Don't use credit cards. I get it. Stephan, on the other hand, is a credit card churner, going for points and miles and rewards and using zero interest to fund things, and has a very creative way of using credit cards. And I don't like either. I don't like Dave Ramsey not using credit cards because I don't want to carry cash. There are some places I don't want to go with a certain amount of cash. I don't want to use a debit card because if you have fraud committed against you with your debit card, it's actual money out of your bank account that you now have to fight to get back. Versus if you use a credit card, you have better protection if there's fraud. The couple of times I think I had credit card issues, I think I came away with more money than was actually taken by the time it was all worked out. You also get vehicle coverage when you rent a car, and I travel a lot, so I rent a lot of cars. So I want to use a credit card for something simple like cash back. I don't have the bandwidth to have all of the cards and pay attention to dates and do it the Stephan way. And I don't like blackout dates or figuring out the system, because every point system on a credit card, in my mind, is a form of tricking people into using that card. The credit card company is hoping that, it's okay for them to live on hopium, but you don't want to do it, that somebody will borrow more money than they can pay back before the interest is due, and then carry a balance from one month to the next. So that's not something I do. I pay my credit card off every single day. I was using the Bank of America credit card. I have since switched to the Apple card, and it's right on your phone, right in your wallet. Every time I use it, I just pay it off. So I've never carried a balance from one day to the next. As we're moving up the spectrum of things that I say that people tend to not like, I'm now going to go into stocks. I don't want to make a video comparing stocks to real estate because what's important to me is that you invest in something that excites you. What you invest in is not as important as the fact that you invest. There are several paths to financial freedom. You can start and grow a business with the intent of growing it to the point where somebody else runs the day-to-day. You can invest in stocks and use the 4% rule or go for dividend stocks. You can invest in crypto if it's what excites you. I chose buy and hold real estate. There's no reason to compare one to the other. But when I talk about why I don't want to own stocks, I get so many hate comments from people talking about the risks of real estate, the nightmare of dealing with tenants, toilets, and termites. And I have added a duplex, and I'll get used to saying I have 18 units, but I've had 16 units since 2021. I've had, slowly grown my portfolio up to that point. And it, on average, takes me less than 2 hours a month to self-manage my rentals. I haven't had to go to a property in over 5 years. Probably didn't even have to go when I went those times before that. I have chosen to go a few times. So dealing with tenants, toilets, and termites is something that I don't care about because I have systems in place to make it very simple for me. With stocks, I can't house hack. With stocks, if I take that 10% average annual return, in order to get that 10%, I have to sell some of the stocks. To use the 4% rule to fund my life to retire, I would have had to have invested millions to get the cash flow that I have off of real estate. And in real estate, I invested $320,000 over a decade of my own money. I recycled the cash flow from the rentals, so that money was also put into the real estate portfolio. But $320,000 from my income over a decade to generate $203,000 in profit last year versus the over 2 million, 3, 4, 5 million-ish it would have taken to get $200,000 in profit using the 4% rule. For me, it was a lot easier to work with a smaller amount needed to be invested in real estate. So when I say these things, people attack me. At no point in time did I say you shouldn't invest in real estate, or you shouldn't invest in stocks, or you shouldn't invest in crypto. I said invest in something that excites you. What excites me is a smaller amount of money invested into an asset that experiences appreciation, principal pay down, tax benefits. It excites me. If stocks excite you, go for it. The same principles apply. Increase your income, decrease your expenses, save and invest the difference. Financial freedom happens. And then if we stay on the same track of stocks and go a little bit further up the spectrum of people disliking what I say, we're going to also take stocks and talk about retirement accounts. If I had money in retirement accounts, I would still be working. Instead, I retired last year. And when I talk about, I'm not going to teach people how to live longer, I'm going to teach them how to live more. I retired at 52. Now let's compare me when I was 52 to almost all, 90% of the people who don't reach financial independence at 52. Generally, they worked the last year. So they went to work, they slept, they commuted, they had about 4 or 5 hours a day that was their time to live their life. Since I retired, I had about 15 hours a day that's mine to live my life. So I had about 3 times the amount of life in the last 12 months than most people my same age. I'm not going to live longer. I'm not going to go out of my way to eat healthy. I don't have a workout routine to be in shape to live longer. I have a workout routine to maintain the physical core strength that I want and to feel better, but it's not to try to live longer. I don't want to extend those years in the 80s and 90s when everything hurts when you get out of bed. I want to live more now. So retirement accounts are tied to age, and I want people to stop thinking about retirement as how old and start thinking how much. As soon as you have the cash flow that has enough to cover all of your life expectancies to live the life that you want to, and then I went with the 4X rule, so 4 times what it cost me to live, coming in from a source where I don't have to sell my life 1 hour at a time to have that money coming in, I retired. There's no age tied to that. It took about a decade, but I could have started when I was 20 or 35. I didn't start until I was 40, so it took 8 years to reach financial independence, and then I worked for 4 more years because I loved my job, and then I retired last year at 52. And I have to tell you, it doesn't suck. So when I talk about I don't want a retirement account, I emptied mine out to buy real estate. I'm not telling other people to do the same thing. If you're starting out in real estate, I actually suggest you don't tap home equity, which means add debt to an existing asset. Don't borrow against or take money out of your retirement accounts on your first couple of rentals, because that tends to be when we make our largest mistakes. And I don't want you to put that money at risk. Get your first rental on money that you earn and save and could lose, could make mistakes with, because we tend to make those biggest mistakes when we're first starting out. Once you have 2 or 3 rentals and you understand how to actually calculate yield with confidence, find a tenant, screen a tenant, place a tenant, maintain a property, understand how your taxes are going to work. Once you have all those systems in place, if you have a reasonable level of confidence in your ability to get a return that justifies taking money out of retirement accounts, that's when I did it. And then the farthest up the spectrum that gets me the most hate from the people who interact with me in social media world, there are a couple of times that it is justified to have an LLC if you invest in real estate. I've been a part of several LLCs. I founded a nonprofit called TPS, Transportation Placement Services. You can find information out about it at hiddenjobs.org. I worked at a truck driving school, which is part of an LLC. But in real estate, I actually have a long list of reasons why none of my properties are or ever will be in an LLC. If you have partners, I suggest you have an LLC. The purpose of them is to protect you from someone else's mistakes. If you're going to use hard money, or sometimes commercial lenders might require you to have your properties in an LLC, totally justifiable reason to have an LLC. But my problem with LLCs is that brand new investor doesn't even own a property yet, hasn't picked a market or a strategy, but is convinced because of something they heard in Facebook that they need to have an LLC. So they have so much to learn about real estate, how to pick a strategy, how to pick a market, how to work on your credit score, how to figure out how to save more, all of the steps we need to take to even start investing in real estate before we've even figured out how does depreciation work. If you add the element of needing an LLC, which makes house hacking almost impossible without committing mortgage fraud, gives you a higher interest rate, makes your insurance cost more. In states like California, if a property is in your own name, a single family house or duplex, it's not rent controlled. Put it in an LLC, rent control. How do you pay yourself? How do you make sure you're not commingling finances? All of these problems you create by thinking you need an LLC when you're starting out. So when I say, if you're investing in real estate, you probably don't need an LLC. There is no asset protection and there is no tax benefits. Unless you have partners. Now the asset protection kicks in. I do have 3 forms of asset protection that I use, and none of them have anything to do with an LLC. When you are sued, all of your assets are at risk. Each one of your LLCs is your asset. So that's the spectrum of things that I say that tend to get me the most hate. When you're talking to your friends and family and you say something about real estate, investing, financial freedom, retiring early, what do you get the most hate on? For a while, there were people in my life, I got hate just by saying I was thinking it's possible to retire early. You can create cash flow from rentals. But once I started creating cash flow from rentals, work became optional and I was able to retire early. The same people that were giving me hate before are now, instead of giving me hate, giving me all of the excuses and reasons why they can't do it. I hope this video has at least made you think, because it is sometimes my goal to offend people.
But not today.
Today, my goal was to make you think that when you say something that is helping you reach financial independence, make work optional, retire early, and somebody gives you hate back, same thing I've had to decide. Why are you talking to them? Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.